Welcome back to another episode of Out of Bounds. I'm your host, Terry, and yes, we are doing it. We are doing this. It's been a while since we went out of bounds, and this is definitely an out of bounds topic, but, obviously I have no issue with doing that. I did kind of go back and forth, not just because of the results, but because of other things I had going on before the election. So I went back and forth about it because I was trying to get back on schedule. Actually, maybe you listen to the channel, maybe you don't, but I was injured. So I'm just kind of getting back on track with that. But I decided in the end to do it. Definitely. Eventually we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the things that come from it. I have no doubt over the next 4 years. So I want to do this not only for me, which this whole channel and everything is an outlet for me. It's not something that I get paid for. It's not something that I do full time. It's an outlet for me. And I think it's 100% okay for anybody out there. If you're not sure, it's okay to look for an outlet. It's okay to look for a distraction. It's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to not be okay with what's going on. And so, but not only that, for the few that might listen, maybe it is somebody out here that needs to hear somebody else say something that might be either encouraging or at least something that might make you feel a little bit heard, a little bit seen, because I know I needed that as well over this, I was gonna say last few days. I guess it's been one day, but technically last few days. And gratefully I was able to get that in small spurts, and I'm thankful for it. And I know there's plenty of people out there that need that. And so I would say to anybody, no matter how you feeling, whether you're anxious in a good way or anxious in a bad way, or if you don't quite understand how you're feeling, it's okay to not be okay in this situation, and it's okay to really take some time for yourself. And that goes for any major situation, but definitely for this one. So look, I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to do expert analysis of the election and everything. Really, again, it's just to give my thoughts and opinions on what is going on from my perspective. And that's really it, man. I'm not promising anything else. So for me, it's very devastating, and I have no issue with being transparent. And one of the things I would say out of the many, I think, core issues is that the idea of politics being taboo is part of the larger issue. No matter what your, political leaning is, the part of the issue in a society is when politics are taboo, because that's what the people in power want you to think. They want you to feel that. And so like I said, I'm fully comfortable being transparent. I'm comfortable in who I am and what I think, because I challenge it. And I constantly update it. So I'm comfortable in saying that. And also just in the positions I've been, especially as an educator, being in education, you get used to having to set some type of example. And there's people walking around much older than me who might feel like they have nothing left to learn. They have no examples. They need no examples, but I know that's not true. So I have no problem being transparent in my thoughts and kind of approaching it. And so I would like to say kind of off the top, because I'm sure just even by the title, some people want to be trolls about it, but this isn't really about red versus blue, conservative versus liberal and all that. Not in the grand scheme of things. For me, I think democracy is important, definitely to a certain extent. And I do want to be very clear. I don't hang my hat and all my trust in the system. The system is, especially in America, absolutely corrupt. in all parties. I don't hang my hat on a single party. I don't hang my hat on any single policy. And so this isn't really to attack one or the other. I do believe in democracy. You got to believe in some type of structure. I mean, obviously there's people with philosophical ideas that are anarchists and believe, different things. And that's, those are legitimate conversations too. But for me, in a civilized, society in a first world country, I believe you have to have some faith in the system, because otherwise people will be as bad as you allow them to be. That doesn't mean everybody, but there's plenty out there. And we see that with the internet. The internet has shown us that. And so without rules and structures, chaos. And so I say all that to say that I'm not telling you that the system is foolproof no matter who's running it, but I will say I do believe in it. I think it's important. And ultimately, I think just by the masses, you look over history and everything, the power does lie with the people. And that's why so many, whatever you want to call it, so many countries, regimes, so many eras spend so much time trying to oppress people. They spend so much time trying to keep power from people, because ultimately we do have that say and we have that sway. And it's just harder now because they've made our society so, in America, they made it so not only acceptable, they made it cool to be dumb. They made it cool to be ignorant. And so that only helps the people in power. And so again, I guess I'm just stressing again, while I champion democracy, I'm not saying it's foolproof. That's just basically the takeaway. So with this election, and what's so disappointing to me is that in my eyes, and I understand full-heartedly, again, I support your right to vote, whichever way you lean. Obviously, the right to vote, access to vote, is one of the big issues people were upset about with one party in particular. So I support your right to vote, have access to vote. I support your right to correct, accurate information and not misinformation. And we support, the people having their say. And one of the things that I do want to point out, a conversations that I've had with my brother and other people, is that people don't always understand historical significance. Like what we call, or who the people who are Democrats and their policies, in a different era, the 90s or 80s, would be considered conservative today, and vice versa in different ways. And so it's not as black and white or blue and red as they want you to make it think. But that's tribalism. That's part of the system as well. They put these boxes out here in this binary, and they tell people this is what it is, and people get so swept up in it that they don't even realize how much of it isn't true. And so that's another reason I don't get too swept up in all of those different things. But again, for me, I think what was most disappointing, what I had to realize, was that I was completely wrong. Number one, that was off the bat. I was wrong. And not only that I was wrong in terms of win versus lose, but I was wrong in terms of sentiment. For me, when you had the original Trump campaign in 2016, I heard a lot about Hillary, and again, I'm not like a huge supporter or anything, but despite whatever her policies were, this dude Trump was just like unhinged. It was like I think as, logical people can look at this and say, yeah, it's probably not best to have somebody in power that has blatant disregard for structure, and it's not in a innovative way. It's not in a creative way where we're making new lanes. It's in a destructive, ignorant way. And so just the rhetoric and everything, we know what happened. And so he gets voted in. I was shocked, and I was honestly just trying to psych myself out a little bit. I was listening to all these people. He's not actually going to take office. He doesn't actually want to do it. And I do think some of that part is true, but he did do it. He went along, and like expected, for the most part, you have people who actually guide policy, and that's going to be true of most presidents, but him in particular. But he had so many moments as a representative, of this country that just completely tarnished, the country's reputation and ability to do business, because, you got the stereotypical, again, I won't say everybody, but the stereotypical conservative and Republican, and that people paint it out to be, where it's very, America, I'm a patriot, and America, we don't care about other people. We're going to, be xenophobic and racist towards other countries, and we don't care. But the truth of the matter is, yes, the country does care. The people that are in power very much care. Most of the things you have very much depend on other countries. And again, that ignorance, that lack of education, that miseducation is what people feed on. So it's a rallying cry to get votes and support, but it's not real life. And so we saw, our relations internationally, we saw just a lot of things get corroded at government level as an organization, but then society wise, just the complete emboldening of just what I would consider sickening behavior was just, at an all-time high. And if at the time I was someone working in K through 12, which, is one thing, and it is sad 100%. First of all, it's sad with anyone, but it's sad to see it with young students, young adults, but it's even worse to see it at the K through 12 level with children, and to see what was happening. And even though I'm in Chicago, very segregated city, even though there's a lot of people of color, segregated, but to see some of the things that were happening and then the small towns, it was sad to see. And so you had a person in a position of authority really emboldening all these different things that I would consider toxic and problematic. And so, yes, it's up to each individual to might say, I don't think being racist to black people is the issue. I can't deny that you feel that way. Like, it doesn't matter whether I think it's right or wrong. A, I can't tell you what to do, but also B, I can't change how you feel. And so, yes, there are people that are going to say some of those things I wasn't bothered by. I believe in it. And that's, that is what it is. But I think objectively, you can't deny that harm was incited in a lot of different ways. And so culminating with the pandemic and the way that was handled, which again, like most of the conversation when it comes to Trump, is just ample evidence. Like, it doesn't matter that he told you it was okay to talk about alternative facts. It doesn't matter that he told you it was okay to just ignore truth. Like, the facts are the facts. And so the way that was mishandled, the amount of lives that were lost, the amount of the sector of the economy that was impacted, leading to what we're dealing with now, is just factual. That's all on the plate. And a lot of that is a direct result of Trump himself, not just the administration as a whole. It's just one person in charge making absolutely just uneducated decisions. And so that culminates with the pandemic, but really it culminated with the riots at the Capitol and all those different things. And then we fast forward, he loses the next election. And for me, that election I wasn't really anxious, because to me, I'm like, this is going to determine. I said, if Trump wins this election, then we got some issues back in 2020. And the election happened, and I'm like, okay, I think despite me being wrong about him the first time, or not him, but being wrong about the country the first time, I think the country has like realized like, okay, yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. We can't do that. And so moving forward, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. Trump then going through his legal issues and everything, but to be able to come back and become the Republican candidate and then to win this election was just beyond anything that I could truly imagine, because I think it shakes my core belief in our society. And let me say this as well. I might have said it before in different ways, but one thing I had to realize is that I was giving people the benefit of the doubt a lot. And one way, especially when it comes to the internet, like early on, where I was very like gung-ho against trolls and stuff, and I still go at trolls. I'm not gonna let people troll, but I was gung-ho because I just operated with giving people the benefit of the doubt. And so I remember in econ class, of all things, AP Econ, high school, my teacher told us, one of the first things he told us was like, one of the first rules of econ is that we assume everybody is a logical operator. So when we're, obviously there's examples of people do things that don't make sense, but in econ, one of the rules they talk about is we assume everybody is operating in a logical way where, they're going to do what's best for them and everything. And that is kind of what I realized I was doing, like with the world in a lot of ways, that whether it's the internet and trolls or people I come across, I realized that's what I was doing. I was giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I was just I was assuming that people have some level of common sense, even after all the things I saw. And so this really, I think, put a cap on it, where I'm like, I'm never going to make that assumption again, because to see all the things he did, and again, if he was a Democrat, I'd be saying the same thing. To see all the things that he did, that we know he did, that is proven that he did, and to still vote for him is beyond comparison, because there's a lot of conversation about losing friends over politics and stuff, and again feeding into that narrative, this we don't talk about politics. No, because if something means something to you so much that you're scared to talk about it because of the possibility of the relationships or what it would do to relationships, then that's probably something you need to know about the other person. Let's start there. But secondly, like, I do understand difference of opinion, being able to have conversations civilly and look at different ideas and be respectful. Like, I have no issue with that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is somebody that is bigger than politics. As I said before, it's bigger than the red versus blue. You're talking about somebody who not only represents encouraging like problematic behavior, harmful behavior, but you're also talking about somebody who happily and very much easily promotes this idea of eroding our society. Eroding. I don't know if eroding is a word, but eroding our society in terms of how we engage in democracy civilly and how we engage with each other civilly. But again, just completely ignoring facts, lying, attacking people out of spite rather than doing what's best for the country. And then again, just policies that I personally do think are human rights. And I know, again, even if I feel strongly about it, I have to recognize that those policies that's not how everybody views it. But for me, those are human policies. Those are human rights issues that are being spoken against. And it doesn't really matter if you think that, hey, XYZ from the Republicans is the right way to lead the country, or that Democrats are wrong. I think anybody saying that, hey, we're going to do this, anyone that stands against us or anyone that doesn't agree with us, we're going to persecute, we're going to lock up, we're going to shut them up, we're going to throw them away. That's not the way to that. I think anybody, again, that's reasonable, but again, I realize everybody not reasonable. Anyone that's reasonable, or anyone that is just a little objective about it, has any empathy about it, would say that that's not the way you want to raise society. But, you know, I understand, and I just have to come to terms. It's a dog eat dog world. We have a aggressive, ultra aggressive capitalist society that's just getting worse. And that's what Republicans push. And in that idea of neoliberalism and capitalism, in the way that we have it is individual ideology. I don't really care about what you got going on. I'm worried about myself. And so, though, you know, again, you have the right to vote to your policies and the way you see it. But for me, I think Trump represents something worse. And the things that we've seen happen already, and the possibilities of what might be coming next, are what causes so much anxiety for me and so much, you know, stress, because that is an impact in the industry that I work in. It's an impact on my future career and my goals. But again, like I said, mainly outside of what policies I agree with, it just fundamentally changes how I look at our society, man. And don't get me wrong, there was a significant drop off in voters. And I think that is part of the issue with the system and kind of what the system wants you to do. And so that's a fight that probably is always going to have to continue. And that's not shocking. But to not only see the numbers and the shifts in the votes, but to hear actual voters and their reasoning, is just disconcerting. Like, I don't really expect people to be the most empathetic. But again, for me, like, especially in this conversation of getting rid of friends and stuff like that, I have no problem in telling anybody that, yes, if you stand for what Trump stands for, or you care about the benefits, the perceived benefits of the Republican Party more than you care about the things that he stands for, we have nothing to talk about. There's no friendship to be had. And I feel 100% on that. So for me, again, yes, there is 100%. There's 100% room for us to push civil discourse, for us to understand democracy and to coexist in it. But there is no room for a type of person like that. And there is no room for the type of people who would support someone like that just to get what they want. Not in my world, not in my circle. So it was very defeating, man. And again, it's not just me. Most people, I would say, have some other interest outside of themselves. But for me, it's very big. If you're educated, I'm sure there's conservative educators, but for a lot of educators, for us, our circles is large. Even if we don't want it to be, it's large. It's not just me. Like I live with me, so I worry about me. But then I also have, brothers. I have nieces. I have people that I, care about, friends and all that. Frat brothers, all that. But then I have this giant circle of young children because of what we represent. I don't have to be their teacher directly or their mentor directly or anything like that, because I'm an adult figure in their educational institution. They are under what I represent, and to know how many of them have their whole lives shifted, some of them endangered because of what's coming, it breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart to think about my nieces and then any other kids having to grow up during whatever legislation is about to come down that's really going to oppress people openly and encourage other people to oppress them. And so yeah, man, I mean, I think like with anything, there is room to say, like, you can't blame one person for what everybody else does. Like, to give a example, whether you think it's silly or not, just because we had a mass shooting and probably other ones inspired by the Joker. I watched The Dark Knight and the Joker made me want to do it. Like, just because we had that, we can't sit here and blame the creators of Batman and the Joker. So I get that. I get some people are going to look at things that happen, like people sending racist texts to black people talking about the slave ship is coming to get them. And people are going to look at that and say, that's not Trump's fault. And so I get their space for that. But we have a crazy amount of evidence that Trump's ideas, rhetoric, and position has emboldened people to do terrible, terrible things, whether he tells them directly or not. And then we already know he incited a riot on the Capitol. So like, there's no conversation about Trump anymore. We know what he is. We know what he represents. And so for me, it's just been a very devastating time. And so, yeah, personally, I have to shift things individually and literally shift like plans and things have now changed. But then I think about so many other people, man, and it is sad. That's the state of affairs, though, in America, and we'll see what happens. I do feel like I've shifted my feelings since that night, or at least got them to a place that are manageable. And again, it's okay to be hurt, defeated, to be messed up, even for an extended period. But for me, I think after feeling my feelings, what I realize for myself is that I have to continue to live my life. Number one, can't let oppressors deter you from living life. You got to show not only the oppressors, but show people that look like you, that might be going through same things as you, that you can still continue to live your life. And I don't mean do whatever you want. I mean, live a productive life for society that is full with what we deem as contributing to the world. That's number one. Number two, continue to advocate and do what we can at a local level and other levels, depending on what you do, to advocate for what we believe is just. and continue to use the power of the people and the voice of the people to move towards the things that we feel are best, and just continue to be a better example than those that might be in power right now. Like, we can sit here and say the numbers speak and they won, and yeah, I mean, there's many elections. Many people win. That's why it's a cycle of 4 years. So again, 20 years from now, we'll have a list of other people who won. It goes back and forth. It doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. It's just, the moment in time. So it doesn't give us any excuse to get to a level that we deem unfit. So for some people saying don't concede, recount, they cheated, I'm like, you said that was beneath and that was, dirty pool when they did it, then don't turn around and do the same thing. So for me, even though I'm not a huge Michelle Obama person, I'm neutral. There's nothing against her, but I think what she said, has always rung true for me since she said it. When they go low, we go high. And so continue to show love and compassion. Continue to show faith in the system. Continue to do the things that we can within the ways that we're allowed to. And if you, however you feel about the country, if you plan to be a part of it, then continue to support, your fellow Americans in the ways that are right. Like, again, obviously, I'm not saying just say yes to whatever anybody's doing because they're American. We're not saying none of that. I'm just saying continue to do what this system was created to do. Again, we have local, state level, federal level. We got we vote, we demonstrate, we use our voice, we teach, we educate. There's a lot of ways to be civically engaged, and for me, I think that I just have to continue to stay on that path and continue to just show some kindness and compassion to people and educate the next generation and hope that they kind of come up in a different way. And I don't mean come up Democrat. I mean come up in a way that's more civil than what we see today. And it's gotten worse recently. It wasn't always this way. And I just, I don't know that it's ever going to happen, especially in my lifetime, but I just continue to hope and continue to pray that we do move in the right direction as a society in terms of being civically engaged, being educated. Like, the people, I mean, people are just so easily lied to by these politicians, and they're so easily buying into a system that hurts them. Like, if you're going to vote for Trump or support those types of things simply because you don't like people that aren't white, hey, it's not much we can do for you. If you don't like women, it's not much we can do for you. But for those people who are voting because they do believe that they're going to get things that aren't at all true. And it's ignorance, and people make ignorance such a negative connotation and an attack on a person when, willful ignorance is negative and it's an attack on you. But ignorance itself is natural. And so when we see people that are ignorant, it's not to shake our head in shame, but for us to move towards education. And so you've heard so many people talk about education is the key. We know all the quotes and that. And obviously I'm an educator, so it might sound biased for me, but I wholeheartedly believe in that. And for all those people who poo-poo it and kind of throw down education and rally around Trump and all that, what they saying. Look at all those politicians and people and look at where their kids are at. First of all of them came from higher ed mostly, and guarantee all of their kids are being educated highly. So don't let these people lie to you, man. Education is definitely the key. So that's it for me, man. I just want to kind of just get all that off my chest and just put it out there for anyone that might need to hear it. So go to the comment section, let me know your thoughts and all those things. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for going out of bounds.